many respects the worst game of the year, Alone in the Dark Illumination. If you wish to emulate the gameplay experience, stick your head down the toilet and take the toilet seat and then bang it against your head repeatedly for about half an hour. You'll probably get the same experience. July saw the 30-year anniversary of Amiga and Wii U total sales past 10 million, but it was another Nintendo related story that made obvious headlines this month with the sad passing of former Nintendo president and CEO Satoru Iwata. You could fill this entire video with his achievements, but needless to say the amount of worldwide sympathy and outpouring of grief was a true indication of just how revered and liked he was within the gaming community. Beginning as a programmer on games such as Kirby and Earthbound, he worked his way up the ladder and became instrumental in many of Nintendo's greatest achievements like the DS and Wii. For me, his biggest asset was that he was a staunch gamer himself and therefore understood the passion of gamers, as well as understanding that at its core, games need to be fun, imaginative and immersive experiences. He was a true giant and will be deeply missed. July's biggest standout by far was the surprisingly addictive Rocket League. There was two odder releases this month, including Hatterful Boyfriend, a dating game involving pigeons. Don't ask. The strangest by far was Godzilla, which would have looked outdated on an old PS1 and was terrible. If you would like to emulate the experience, stick your head down the toilet, get the toilet seat and bang it against your head several times for half an hour and you'll probably emulate the experience perfectly. August, and one of the most interesting stories of the month involved a live-action chat roulette first-person experience along with the release of YouTube Gaming. Unfortunately, all eyes were once again on Konami, with a former employee leaking information to Kotaku regarding work practices and bullying, which added to their already awful year. This month also brought one of the most polarising game experiences of the year. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, basically the Archers meets Tales of the Unexpected, was a game you either thought was beautiful and powerful or just pretentious arty bollocks. I completely understand those that felt it was the latter, but I strangely wasn't one of them. Now, it should be noted that there were issues from the start. Running out of development time meant that they didn't have time to truly test a run option, which meant that most people were unaware of it. Subsequently, most people went through the game at a slow walking pace, which felt like the game was going to break at any moment. Secondly, navigation was rather abstract, which meant that you could end up effectively in the middle of nowhere in a nicely rendered field, unaware of where to go next. But if you allowed yourself to get involved with the story, it truly rewards you. Alright, some of the dialogue involves phrases such as, "Has anyone seen my cows?" amongst others, but excellent voice acting and soundtrack made it one of the highlights of the year.
Only staff on site for this rotation. I'm just saying, if the main gate's power fails, then there's no way in or out of the observatory.
That's why there are backup generators.
Another surprise this month was Until Dawn, a game which is really above its peers and in many ways is the game David Cage wishes he had created. Starting out as seemingly a generic teen horror, it soon subverts the same genre and features genuine tough decisions with genuine consequences. It's really worth checking out. September, and more controversy arose when an educational game about slavery featuring a minigame entitled Slave Tetris was removed from Steam. Good thing, or political correctness gone mad? You decide. Those in the UK also had the opportunity to watch The Game Changers, a bizarre and clearly exaggerated TV movie about the rise of Rockstar Games and the impending hot coffee mod legal issues. It was horrible. But it wouldn't be right to talk September without mentioning one of the most anticipated releases of the year. Metal Gear Solid 5 returned and was rumoured to be its final swan song, although obviously time will tell. Now it's difficult to talk about the game without mentioning some detractions. Firstly, since being shown in the first trailers, Quiet has been the subject of many an article and comment, mostly because she appeared dressed like a late night fetish model. Now the reasoning behind this was because she breathes for her skin in a way similar to photosynthesis. Photosynthesis I imagine being the Japanese word for hooray boobies! Her lack of female empowerment was made worse by the fact that she barely spoke throughout the game, although there was storyline based reasons for this. Strangely, despite her obvious sexualization, she remained one of the best things in the game. You ended up sympathizing with her plight, and hers was one of the few subplots in the game that managed to actually have an emotional payoff. Really, Metal Gear Solid 5 is unfinished. In its final act, it had to repeat missions with different parameters just to drive along the narrative. There's plot holes you can drive a bus through, plus it has easily one of the stupidest twist endings I've ever known. Indeed, I'd be very surprised if it didn't make everyone who went through it go, "What?" I know some have mentioned that it totally breaks the fourth wall and it's cool because it's so meta, you know, but seriously, come on, 40 plus hours? For that. But all of these gripes aside, Metal Gear Solid 5 is utterly superb, and in many ways is several great games in one. Its action, stealth and management simulator all rolled into one enticing package. Every mission, submission and free roam felt like a genuinely exhilarating adventure, and every combat sequence was breathtaking. Along with this, great graphics, soundtrack and up until a certain point story made it easily one of the best games of the year. If one, perhaps tainted by the next appearance for Konami, who towards the end of the month announced that they were quitting AAA gaming, save for the Pro Evo franchise. September at times was an embarrassment of riches when it came to game releases. Mad Max polarised opinion with its sandbox emulation of the movie franchise it was trying to represent. Forza 6 was released to acclaim and is arguably the best next-gen driving game released so far. We had every sports franchise under the sun return once again as EA Sports spent the month wafting masses of cash in front of their faces like they do every year, the bastards. Frictional Games decided to frighten anyone with a nervous disposition once more with Soma. Mario Maker was released and got creative juices flowing. But the standout for me was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, which appeared to have been developed in Microsoft Paint and was a stupid glitchy mess. And if you would like to emulate that experience, stick your head down the toilet, get the toilet seat and bang it across your head several times. Two other big standouts this month were the indie hits Dropsy and Undertale, both of which I couldn't recommend anymore if I tried to recommend them any more than when I'm trying to recommend them now, if that makes any sense. October, and Charity Games Aid raised over £564,000 this year. Well done. But the most interesting story revolved around underappreciated voice actors voting to strike for better working conditions. Good for them. Now, October felt like we time travelled back into a previous era. Rock Band 4 and Guitar Hero Live were both released to Duel and Rock Out. Well, rock out as best you can with plastic instruments. I haven't seen anybody yet play Guitar Hero or Rock Band and not look like a complete and total dick, which I suppose is part of their appeal. Ubisoft farted out another Assassin's Creed clone with Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Oh Christ, why won't this franchise just die, governor? And Halo 5 finally hit stores. Basic summary, boring single player, extremely good multiplayer. Indie games impressed this month as ever, thanks to Prison Architect doing the rounds. For the story at least think Theme Hospital meets Goodfellas. November, and Konami were in the news again by closing down the Metal Gear Online studio. We got to see the first footage of the fabled PlayStation SNES prototype being turned on, but the biggest news this month was Activision completely losing the plot and acquiring Candy Crush Saga creators King Digital for, and I shit you not, $5.9 billion. The phrase "the blind leading the blind" comes to mind. Naturally, with the holiday season approaching, it was time for AAA publishers to go mad, releasing everything in one go. Black Ops 3 was first up. Unlike Black Ops 2, it was like Black Ops 2. To be honest, I played so many Call of Duties, the whole experience just molds into one. It's almost like they're all roughly the same with similar modes and gameplay. Need for Speed returned and attempted to emulate its older editions, but it didn't get it quite right. But it was the release of two games this month on exactly the same day that got everyone talking, or tweeting at least. One was the timed Microsoft exclusive Rise of the Tomb Raider, which continued down the route of gritty, biting realism of a slightly posh lady murdering everything in her path and defying death at every corner. But the gaming world collectively jizzed its pants this month at the prospect of playing Fallout 4.
No need to worry, folks. We'll
Despite at times feeling that Fallout 4 had worse graphics than Fallout 3, it remains one of the highlights of the year. Some have stated that it's really too close to Fallout 3, like that's necessarily a bad thing, like Fallout 3 was awful or something. Alright, so some things have been oversimplified, but within an hour I felt like I was in good familiar territory, like a warm cosy blanket, albeit one covered in radiation and bottle caps. The old Bethesda glitch monster did pay a visit, but overall it's a wonderful chaotic mess of a game, highly recommended. November also brought us Star Wars Battlefront, which was a nice effort despite its slightly cynical release a few weeks before The Force Awakens. And finally, December. The Game Awards happened and Konami allegedly banned, oh, do you know what, fuck Konami. Oh, and that Final Fantasy VII remake is now episodic and thus is now literally worse than Hitler. Most of this month will no doubt be playing either Just Cause 3, if you can get past the bugs and loading issues, and of course Rainbow Six Siege. And that is where I'm going to stop. So, has it been a good year? Well, compared to the lackluster previous, I think there's been some progress, in particular with consoles. This is despite the over-enthusiasm of extending franchises and sequels. So what have we got to look forward to next year? Well, more sequels and extended franchises. Still, next month we'll see the release of both Bombshell and The Witness, so it's not all bad news. For the 5 of you who watched this all the way through, many thanks and Happy New Year to you all. So long.